Welcome, Dr. Jian Lin here in Essen. You are the Senior Vice President of the Energy Foundation, a partnership of major donors interested in solving the world's energy problems. The geographic focus is on the US and China, and you're also the Director of the China Sustainable Program. China is the key word when coming to my first question. We hear about China primarily as the biggest carbon dioxide emitter, but we also hear about big initiatives starting towards a green economy. What's your view about China's climate and energy policy?
To understand China's energy and climate policy, it really should be put in the larger context, the development context such policies are shaped. Everyone has heard the rapid economic growth in China in the last 30 years. And so now China is the second largest economy in the world, just surpassed Japan. However, China is still a very poor country by the per capita income. So as of last year, per capita income is roughly $4,000 US, compared to Germany, which is about $40,000 US. So there's a 1/10 difference between Chinese income and the German income. So that gave you the context that the development is still the primary driver for China's perspective. There's about 15 to 20 million people that move from the countryside to cities every year. Every single year, 15 to 20 million people will move from the countryside to cities. So I'll tell you another story about both development and urbanization that's unfolding in China, probably the largest human migration in history. So given that kind of development perspective, you can see that China will continue to grow from a $4,000 per capita economy to a $40,000 economy. There's a long way to go. At the same time, China is confronted with both environmental degradations, that's quite severe at the moment, as well as resource constraints, as we all face in terms of energy, oil, and how do you secure the energy supply for keeping the economy going. In that context, China both have to develop as well as find a new way of development, because it realized it cannot continue to grow the way the West has grown in the past. So China has to find a new way, a much more energy efficient and environment more friendly way to grow. And that's the only way to really sustain Chinese development for the foreseeable future. So in that context, you can see that energy policy and climate policy in China is constructed with this perspective. I think in many ways, the Chinese leadership has realized improving energy efficiency is the #1 priority. And they have set very clear long-term plans to drive efficiency improvement. In the last 5 years, China has set a target of improving its energy efficiency by 20% for the whole economy. That goal is largely met as of the end of 2010. In terms of energy savings and carbon emission reductions, that's equivalent to 1.5 billion tons of CO2 per year. Probably the largest single effort in the world in reducing carbon emission at the moment. At the same time, China has also decided it is in its own interest to develop renewable source of energy, because China has to import more than half its oil now from outside. There's a huge amount of coal that's being burned and cause environmental damage as well. To really ensure that the Chinese economy can grow into the future with a minimum environmental impact, it has to find alternative energy. So it set a long-term target, a long-term approach to address that. I think even 5 years ago, no one, even people within China, would expect China would emerge as the frontrunner in a global race to a green economy. And China is put into a very far-sighted policies in terms of renewable energy law that require energy companies to produce certain percentage of electricity from renewable sources. There's government incentives set to support development renewables in terms of feed-in tariffs and other tax policies. So in the last 5 years alone, the installation of wind energy has doubled every year. So as of 2010, last year, China is the largest market for wind installation in the world, roughly 40,000 megawatts. And that's a tremendous achievement for a country. Its per capita income is still fairly low, in terms of $4,000. But China sees that's in its national interest to develop renewable energy, to find a way to a cleaner and low carbon growth path to the future, but also help its population and its companies to be well positioned in a new race to a clean global energy economy in the future.
How is Germany viewed from China, particularly in relation from energy and climate?
Well, the Chinese people love German beer and German cars. On the environmental front, I think Germany has a very high reputation for science and technology. And German products viewed very highly in terms of quality and their performance. Specifically in the energy policy area, I think Germany has been considered a leader in Europe in helping driving the European towards emission reductions and also producing renewable energy. I think Germany is considered one of the leaders in the world in promoting renewable energy with its feed-in tariff and solar in installations in the world. So in that regard, it's considered very highly.
My last question is, Stiftung Mercator is a new foundation in this field. What advice would you give?
Well, I'm sure you know how to work in Europe and Germany. I just want to share a little bit of our experience in working in China. Our foundation has been operating in China for 12 years now. I think for one, we have to be very clear about the kind of help we want to offer to people. And we want to understand the people's need for help. Oftentimes, very generous people come in, want to offer help, but doesn't understand the need, and that's cause problems in the long term. You really want to understand the people you want to help. So that, I think that's number one. I also believe have a long-term perspective is very important, especially working in cross-cultural, cross political boundaries, because it does take a long time to build the trust and relationship to understand the local context. So it takes a long-term approach in terms of understanding local conditions, supporting local people to really achieve the mission you establish for yourself. And in many ways, relationship is the foundation that you build together towards a great good.
Thank you for the interview, Dr. Lin.
Oh, it's a pleasure.